Folks, tutige kohenania. Now my Kikuyu is not very good, but what I'm saying is that we quit lying to ourselves. The results that the ABC gave us over the presidential race is not how Kenyans voted. Yeah? Based on what we know, those of us who are on the ground, and even based on the residents of the various places where results have been given, and especially the Mount Kenya region. Yeah, walk around and talk to people. Ask them how they voted. The results were given are not correct. But then the mystery remains. How did those results come? Where did they come from? How were they put together? And if it is true that there were fraudsters involved, people out to defraud the good people of Kenya, how precisely did they do it? Now I've been very busy, and finally I've put together a dossier for you of precisely and exactly how it was done. But what should be even more fascinating for you on my show today is what went wrong. Because the truth is, this plan could have worked like a charm, but like a small thing went wrong. A very small thing. In other words, a very small thing saved Kenyans. Stay with me and find out what it is. A very warm welcome to my show today. Twende kazi. Immediately the presidential election results started trickling in, beaming over our televisions. I could immediately tell that there was something very wrong. And I know many other Kenyans, perhaps millions across the country, who understand our politics, could also tell that there was something very, very wrong going on here. And then something else happened on that first day that not only raised my eyebrows, but got me into a panic. You see, by 4 p.m. on August 9th, 2022, the IEBC told us that slightly over 12 million Kenyans had voted. And you know, 4 o'clock is just 2 hours away from the time 6 when polling stations should close. Going by past records of elections in Kenya, by this time a vast majority of people have voted, and therefore between 4 and 6 you expect them just to trickle in, the last minute people, those who were delayed by vehicles, etc., etc. And so on the next day, when the IBC, the same IBC, came out and told us that actually over 14 million Kenyans had voted, meaning that between 4 and 6, 2 million Kenyans voted. Now that may sound right to you, but it didn't sound right to me. And what immediately came to mind is that the extra figures are needed, the extra 2 million is needed, to boost somebody's votes. Okay? And at the time, And for a day or two after that, I had no idea what had happened. But today, we can piece together and discover precisely what went down in the biggest fraud operation ever in the history of Kenya against the Kenyan people. And to get this entire story, we have to start the story right from the beginning. And the beginning has to be the point when William Samoei Ruto and his handlers realized that they did not have the numbers to win the presidential elections. So what do you do when you don't have the numbers? Well, you assemble a legal team which will start by looking at past presidential election petitions that have come before the Supreme Court, 2013 and 2017. And armed with that, you come up with a plan of how you're going to win a Supreme Court petition against you being elected. In other words, everything you do in your scheme to fiddle with the elections, to rig the elections, should be done in such a way that it cannot be challenged legally. Because here we're talking about legal issues, not political issues, not opinion issues, legal issues. The law, what the law says. And in your plan, you also exploit the law. For example, we know that according to our laws, the chairman of the IEBC announces the presidential results. And nobody can challenge the chairman of the IEBC. Now, all other issues, like the other commissioners having to agree with the chairman, all those issues are grey areas. What do I mean by grey areas? The areas where people can bring up arguments to counter and cancel any assertion that what the IEBC chairman announced was not legal because 4 commissioners said no. Okay? That one can be challenged. However, the declaration of the chairman of the IEBC cannot and can never be challenged. So what that means is that if you have the IEBC chairman in your pocket and you're a presidential candidate, you can get him to announce what you want him to announce, and it'll be final, subject to being challenged at the Supreme Court. Now, when you challenge something, you're already at a disadvantage because you need something called evidence. You can be very sure something happened. Yeah, you're so sure it happened. But where is the evidence? Where are the witnesses? Without those two things, a court will have no option but to disagree with you and what you're claiming. That is the law. Now, the behavior, the moves, everything that Wafula Chebukati, the chairman of the IEBC, did in that period suggests that Chebukati already knew the results he was going to announce before the results came in. Now, let me give you a piece of information that maybe you don't have. And before I give you that information, I'm going to ask you a very simple question. Do you think Raila Odinga and the most informed Kenyan on our shores, President Uhuru Kenyatta, did not know about the relationship between Chebukati and Deputy President William Samoei Ruto? Do you think that is possible? Of course they knew. And so what they did to balance out things at the IEBC was to make sure that the commissioners appointed, actually 4 commissioners were appointed by the president, would be there to check Chebukati's leaning towards the deputy president. And therefore you would have a balanced IEBC. And hopefully that IEBC would be in a position to deliver results that are not biased against one side, whichever side. Now my next question, do you think Wafula Chebukati knew this? Do you think William Samoei Ruto knew this? Of course they did. They knew exactly what had happened. And so it makes perfect sense that Wafula Chebukati kept those 4 commissioners in the dark. There was a very deliberate effort on his part to ensure that as little information as possible went to those 4 commissioners, because he already knew well in advance the person he was going to announce as winner of the presidential race. Now, of course, those who know me well know that I don't like mysteries. I always do a lot of research to explain things that cannot be explained. Now, these votes which were coming in favor of William Samoei Ruto were a puzzle to me. But finally I figured out where those numbers were coming from. And in many ways, I dare add, those numbers reminded me very much of election results in 1992 and 1997. What used to happen then is that even in constituencies and polling stations where Daniel Toroitich arap Moi had lost to the opposition, he still came in with a sizable amount of votes. And of course these votes accumulate towards the final total. And that's how Moi won his elections. Bottom line, Moi won by becoming a strong second where he lost. Okay, I need to repeat that because that's very important. And it is a key part of the strategy that was used by William Samoei Ruto. And it is, you make sure that where you come in second, nobody will look at the person who's runners up. People will focus on the person who won. So you make sure that every place where you come in second, as much as you can stretch it, of course in a place like Nyanza you won't stretch it by much, but in other areas of the country, you ensure that your second position is as strong as possible, because those numbers accumulate. And in the end, the idea is to give you a victory, more votes. So that was one reason why William Samoei Ruto votes right from the beginning were very strong. And Kenyans were wondering, where are these votes coming from? Because keen political observers know very well the kind of support William Samoei Ruto enjoys countrywide. And those who did not know, should have known, should have been able to tell from the celebrations that took place after Ruto was announced. You announce Raila Odinga tomorrow, and you'll understand what I mean. But there's something else that those who wanted Ruto to win did, that Moi never did. We had 5,000 ghost polling stations. What is a ghost polling station? A ghost polling station is a polling station that does not exist in reality. However, on paper, it appears, and votes will come in from that polling station or from those polling stations. 5,000 of them were in the just concluded presidential election. Now just guess, who do you think those 5,000 polling stations favored? Whose votes came in from those 5,000 polling stations? You tell me. Now, in addition to that, we also have evidence of cases where votes were switched. Okay? The votes of ODM are switched and given to UDA. And the UDA minimal genuine votes are given to ODM. Indeed, the solid evidence is that one person is in custody. One person, an official of the IEBC at a polling station, was caught red-handed, arrested. Yeah. And I believe the story appeared on mainstream media. Yeah, so that's not a rumor, it is a fact. So that one was caught. How many others were not caught? Now you'll remember the beginning I told you that this whole plan started with the lawyers looking at the legal angles. And so the plan to steal this election, yeah, was solid and was going to work. You see, in 2017, one of the main reasons why the election of President Uhuru Kenyatta was overturned by the Supreme Court was that there was a mess as far as the Form 34As were concerned. Yeah, those are the results that come in from polling stations, which are final. Nobody can alter them according to our laws. And so this time round, all the Form 34As were there. In fact, they're being beamed to the portal. They're being sent to the portal, transmitted. Anybody could access them. They were all there, neatly done. And so when somebody petitioned this victory of William Samoei Ruto at the Supreme Court, all the Form 34As would be produced. So where's the evidence anything went wrong? This election was very open. It was very fair. Where's the evidence proving otherwise? Very neatly done. And that was the plan. Now we know that for the Form 34A to be genuine, it needs signatures from the agents of all presidential candidates. And believe it or not, there is evidence of how this was precisely done. It is in the public domain. Remember this story about some Form 34As being found that were signed by all the agents but had no results. What does that tell you? It tells you, this is solid evidence, that Form 34As were being signed before results. Meaning that somebody can later fill in whatever results they want, and that will be a genuine, authentic Form 34A that can pass the scrutiny of anybody, but especially that of the Supreme Court of Kenya. Done deal. And everything was going like clockwork. Things were perfect. Everything was going according to plan. And then something went wrong for UDA. Something went terribly wrong. And it is a very funny thing that went wrong. Somebody had done a miscalculation. Somebody had underestimated the UDA opponent. And therefore, after all this fiddling, stealing of votes, exchanging of results, etc., etc., it suddenly dawned, very suddenly, on those who are working to get William Samoei Ruto elected, in quotes, as President of Kenya. It dawned on them that after all this, Raila was still ahead. Ai! Huyu ni mtu aina gani? Raila was still ahead. You remember I told you, even before the election started, that Raila will win by a landslide. This is more evidence that what I told you was nothing but the truth. Now, in my opinion, this is what has saved Azimio. Because what happened after that is what got UDA caught. Or the people who are doing this caught. because there was a second wave of rigging. Okay, we've already discussed the first, what happened, how it was done, yeah, and it was expected, at least on the drawing boards, that this would be enough to give victory to William Samoei Ruto. Yeah, all they needed was a slim victory and the 50+1. That's all. And in any case, if William Ruto won by a wide margin, people would be suspicious. Yeah, all they needed was a slim victory. And they were sure they were going to get it. But now all of a sudden, they realized they didn't have it. And so, a quick decision was made, or rather a quick decision must have been made, to do a second wave of rigging. And it seems that this second wave of rigging had not been so carefully planned as the first one. And that's the reason why people got caught. The other reason why they got caught is that people had already started scrutinizing the results very carefully. These are people who had lost parliamentary seats and other seats, especially in the Mount Kenya region. But the fraudsters needed more votes at all costs. And so, we had the 2017 situation repeated, where you have voters, allegedly, coming into a polling station, casting a vote only for the president, and then walking out. Not caring to cast a vote for the member of parliament, the governor, women's rep, or anybody else. They just voted for Ruto and walked out. Now, I don't think I need to remind you that this was one of the reasons why the election of President Uhuru Kenyatta was quashed by the Supreme Court in 2017. You remember that very famous drama, the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court judges asked IBC, what happens to the other ballot papers in the case where somebody votes only for president, which is not illegal? There's no law against that. But the judges were simply asking, what happened to the other ballot papers? Women's rep, MP, governor, etc., etc., for these people who voted only for the president. Were they spoilt votes? Did they put them in a special kiondo after these people voted? Where did those ballot papers go? And the ABC could not answer that question. We are back in the same situation. That question will have to be answered. What happened to the other ballot papers? The long and short of what I'm saying, this is clear evidence that somebody stuffed ballot boxes with votes in favor of William Samoei Ruto. Period. And now, we can neatly explain, or rather we can give a theory, why we were suddenly told, after being told the previous day, that slightly over 12 million Kenyans voted, why we were suddenly told the next day, no, actually between 4 and 6, magic happened. There was a last-minute rush. So many Kenyans flocked polling stations suddenly. I have no idea where they had been. And 2 million Kenyans, over 2 million Kenyans, voted in Kipindi cha Lala Salama, just before the polling stations closed. Now we can understand the reason for those extra votes. And I don't think I was wrong to be worried. Those extra voters were required to increase the numbers so that William Samoei Ruto wins. And therefore I have a theory to present. It is possible that after the first wave of rigging, William Samoei Ruto was trailing by about 2 million votes. Yeah. And therefore, these 2 million votes had to be introduced and distributed all over the country, but especially in the Mount Kenya region, yeah, to give William Samoei Ruto victory. Actually, a friend, somebody else who's more conversant with these issues, and I respect the opinion, tells me that the difference may not have been 2 million. The difference may have been about 1.5 million or a million. And so, he says, in reality, about 1 million people voted, yeah, between 4 and the deadline of 6 on August 9th. But the figure we're given was 2 million. Yeah. And so, maybe, the fiddlers needed 1 million votes to win, in quotes, 1 million. The truth is there, somewhere, in those two opinions. Now, I'm sure you've seen on social media this situation where there are two different Form 34As for the same polling station, with of course very different results. And both these Form 34As are authentic, they're genuine. They have the ABC stamp. So which one is fake and which one is the real thing? By the way, this is further evidence that what we had on August 9th, as far as the presidential elections are concerned, was not really an election. It was something else. Massive fraud against the Kenyan people. Now, it is my opinion that had the second wave of rigging not taken place, the case of different Form 34As would have been very minimal, and therefore something that one could easily overlook. But because there's a second wave of rigging, there are just too many of these Form 34As that are not identical. Different Form 34As for the same polling station. But there's also something else which happened that made people get caught. There seems to have been a delay of sorts. And this is the reason why we have different Form 34As. There seems to have been a delay of sorts between the time the fraudsters got into the IEBC portal and the time voting started. Yeah. So that what happened is by the time they came in, some Kenyans had already downloaded the genuine Form 34As. And therefore later on, when they were replaced in the ABC portal, there are many individuals who are able to come forward and say, the Form 34A that I downloaded initially is not the same as this one which is in the portal now. They are different. Why? Now, if you don't believe that that is overwhelming evidence, even before a kangaroo court, people picked from the streets from various places to be judges. Hey, that's a kangaroo court. People picked from nowhere with no legal experience or training. If you don't believe that this is enough evidence to convince a kangaroo court, let alone the Supreme Court of Kenya, then in my opinion, you have a problem. You have a very big problem. This is overwhelming evidence. Very overwhelming. Solid evidence. We didn't have anywhere near this kind of evidence in 2017. And the election of Uhuru Kenyatta was overturned. And we had nothing, nowhere near what we have now. Then, yeah, so you need to be totally convinced even before proceedings start. It should be very obvious. Wacha wasiwasi and negative thinking. Now, I've not mentioned the other pieces of evidence. Ballot papers being found on individuals People are carrying around official ballot papers of the IEBC. And some of these ballot papers are already marked in favor of UDA and the UDA candidate for a governor's seat. There is that evidence, and it is all in the public domain. Many of us know of it already. But then I think I know what the problem is. We have been overwhelmed by UDA propaganda on social media. They have convinced us, relax, Ruto is president. Accept and move on. Many of us have been overwhelmed by that. And therefore we have stopped thinking. We have stopped remembering what we already know about this election. Oh, you know, these UDA people, they can bribe anybody. Yeah. Supreme Court is nothing to them. Yeah. They can get the Supreme Court to judge in favor of their cause. That's what some people are saying. Now, I'm not sure if they're talking about the same Supreme Court that I know. Because the Supreme Court I know, you know, it has judges, like my favorite judge, the Supreme Court, Justice Lenaola, who reminds me very much of my political lecturer. You know, somebody was telling me just a few moments ago that Justice Lenaola has this habit of when he goes out for a drink, yeah, I'm told he prefers wine, that when people start coming near him trying to make friends, trying to get to know him, trying to be friendly, the guy usually walks out. He has nothing to discuss with people. Not because he's proud, obviously, but because that is how people get corrupted. You know, my late political lecturer was exactly like that. Whenever he was in social places, he was very guarded. If anybody tried to be friendly, or anybody sent drinks over to him, that was the end of his session at that particular place. He would get away from there as quickly as possible. Yeah, because he knew that was the first move in being corrupted. Somebody gets very friendly with you. Somebody you don't know. Somebody you have never met. Somebody who never knew you when you're struggling to get to the position where you are now. Why do they want to know you now? Why are they so friendly now? What is the objective? Ni nini wanataka? You know, it is very sad, but Kenyans are corrupt and Kenyans are sick. Did you hear some Kenyans telling Raila Odinga that he should also have stolen? Kama umeibiwa, kwa nini hata wewe ukuiba? What these Kenyans are saying is that it is okay to steal. There's no problem. If the other person was better in stealing than you, then Raila Odinga should accept defeat. They were better at stealing than you. You too had an opportunity to steal. This is what they're saying. Oh boy. I give up. Where did these Kenyans go to school? Who are the parents of these Kenyans? How were they brought up? Hey, you know, some of us parents, when our children come home and they say, oh, somebody stole my rubber, somebody stole my ruler, some parents tell them, now I bought you so many rubbers and rulers, I'm getting tired. Why don't you steal from somebody else and replace what was stolen from you? Believe it or not, that is what some parents tell their children, not knowing that they're grooming future thieves. They're grooming future characters that will come up with an idea like this one, of telling Baba, why didn't you also steal? I will not give that the dignity of even trying to explain an answer. It is just wrong. It is sin. It is wrong before Almighty God. Because all of us one day will have to be judged for what we have done on this earth and what we failed to do. Shauri yako. And so, my friends, That is how it was done. That is how the presidential election was stolen. But then the nagging question remains. Where were the intelligence community? Where was the government when all this was going down? Where was the government when ballot papers were being smuggled in? What happened? Well, those of you who have taken in WIB number 83, my weekly intelligence briefings number 83, know the shocking answer to that question. And if you're not yet a member, if you've not seen WIB number 83, I highly recommend it. And then you'll understand what is going on a lot deeper. Yeah. And more importantly, you will be able to predict correctly who the 5th President of the Republic of Kenya is going to be. Yeah. Because I can tell you for free, it is not the current president-elect. Sio huyo. Use those details in front of your screen right now and become a subscriber immediately. And of course, you'll get all back editions of my weekly intelligence briefings, some of which feature this election, and some dodgy things that started happening very early, long before these elections. Some of them even in 2021. You'll get all the WABs, the actually 83 number, from number 1 to number 83. And of course, we have this very special offer, which should have ended, but I've extended for a few hours. Take full advantage of it. It is a fraction of what the normal rate is. I highly recommend it so that you understand. It is for those who seek to understand. Not choir masters for either side of the political divide. No, not for diehard supporters who are emotional every time anything negative is said against their candidate. No, it is for people who want to understand bila emotions. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.